we have heard a lot of noise about the need for the sector, the voluntary sector, to up its game, to tell that impact story, to measure, to assess, and so on. And we know that there's a kind of broad spectrum within the foundation field of people who are relaxed and perhaps at the high trust end, and people who are really interested in metrics and investing in randomized control trials. I guess I want to come at this from two angles. One is to reflect on your own approach at the trust and what the kind of culture around impact is, but also to think about the organisations that we're talking about in this complicated space, social justice organisations, social welfare organisations. What is it reasonable for us to be expecting from them at the moment?
We are more at the trust end, and that's because of the nature of our work. So we work long term with multiple partners for structural change, incremental structural change, which can never be attributed to one party. So metrics and, don't do it for me, as it were. One of the problems with the march of the metric, if I could put it that way, is it has led people both to do and to fund things that are easy to measure rather than the things that most importantly need to be done. So that's part of the jigsaw. On the other hand, we all have an obligation across all the sector to do the best we can with the resources at our disposal. And to that end, you must be able to make some kind of proportionate stab at understanding what you're achieving with the resource that you have at your disposal and working out how to improve that as a continuous process. So I guess there are things which lend themselves very much to sort of ready measurement, and there are things which, we don't fund very much in the way of service delivery, and when we do, it's to create a new evidence base. So then we do very expensive academic evaluation of the nature that will then be persuade people in the Ministry of Justice that such and such a thing is an intervention worth pursuing. We certainly wouldn't expect that kind of level of attention or rigour or detail for a migrant advice service in Wolverhampton, for example, which is something that we do support. And what we've done there is help them to develop, understand the concept of outcomes, not just footfall. So it really depends on what it is that you're looking at. Metrics are a comfort blanket, and if you don't have metrics in place, it means you're not doing anything useful. And that's clearly nonsense.
Where do you think we are in terms of the march of the metrics?
Organisations that are very good at a particular intervention and are good at measuring the impact of that particular intervention have become, as it were, the sort of poster girls and boys for the sector. And I think that is sometimes harmful to those other parts of the sector that are doing things that are both harder to measure and less important to measure. And the thing I think that is changing and that is really pleasing is that more organisations are understanding that the purpose of this thing is not to please a funder, but to give you the tools to be more reflective iteratively about what you do and how to improve it.
The principles that we ourselves have developed about impact assessment, that it should be appropriate, proportionate, relevant. I think funders find it difficult to apply those because they feel that there's a huge cost involved in having bespoke arrangements. And I wonder what your feeling is about the kind of tension between uniformity and bespoke, and in a way what position foundations can take in relation to that, given their freedoms.
It's an interesting question, and I agree with you that from experience that bespoke is often what's needed. particularly if it's about problem solving and troubleshooting. There are things that can be universal offers from, as it were, from infrastructure organisations, but they don't tend to be able to manage those kind of, be useful in those complex situations. And I think the beauty of being independent foundations is that we are able to do what's necessary for the work in hand, because that's what we're doing. And unfortunately, for a lot of operating charities, then they don't have that option. So for us, we approach things by relationship first. I mean, we have a relationship with a lot of partners that we don't give money to necessarily. That's not, because it's not what we're here for. People don't come to us for money. They work with us, and we give them money for part of the work that is in hand as a collective effort.
Mm-hmm.
So that it's quite different. In our case, what needs to be offered in a bespoke way, and not across the piece for everyone at all, is organically grows from the nature of the work and the relationship. Now, you can't possibly expect the big lottery fund or the foundations that are spending 25 million a year to be able to do that. You can't. It's just not. It's not feasible. So again, context is all. And what each foundation has to do is to be thoughtful and purposeful about what their particular role is in strengthening the organisations that they work with.